You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholics, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a charm, just like Jim. It's more than life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club, light some bottles, impress them girls. It's more than life.
Fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And who dat? And this evening we have a lot to go into, a lot of main course. Before we get into that, so I got a little bit to say about myself. So I thought this loss to the Falcons, I thought it was gonna be painful and really be hard to get over, and it was, and it is. But right before I got on this podcast, I got got. So I don't know if I've gone into anything about where I stay or where I've lived, but just about 6 months ago, I moved into this cabin, as you can see behind me, this wood cabin. And since I've lived here, I've probably killed like 100, 200 wasps, paper wasps, yellow jackets, and never really even got close to getting stung by one. But just before getting on this podcast, I have a really bad habit of not just walking barefoot, like anywhere, like outside, inside, out on the porch, And I know here, once it starts cooling off and stuff, you kind of got to worry about sluggish bees and sluggish wasp and hornets and yellow jackets and stuff. And I've been here for 6 months, and like I said, killed a couple hundred wasps, having to spray them and get them to. They have some cracks and stuff in the cabin where they've had like big nests. You start spraying your raid, and they just start pouring out of there. But like I said, never even got close to getting stung. But right before getting on this podcast, I stepped on a honeybee, and man, I got. I was not prepared for that. It's funny, you're not getting stung for a little while. You're not really that fearful of them, but man, you stepped on that little sucker, and man, it felt just like a little prick, a little itch for a second, and just increasingly got painful. But yeah, I had to slap that little sucker off of there and pull its stinger out, and had to go get some antiseptic put on the arch. It's like right on the arch of my left foot, and then had to go get some steroid cream. But didn't hurt as much as I recall, and it didn't last that long. It only hurt really hurt for like 5-10 minutes. After you got it cleaned up, it doesn't really hurt anymore. But I got, and that pain, actual physical pain, other than the Falcons beating the Saints, it kind of got me over it a little bit. Definitely more focused on my bug sting than I am about the sting of the Saints loss. But anyways, that's enough about me. That's enough about hornets, wasp, and stinging bugs. And just for anyone out there that's maybe getting concerned about me saying I've killed a couple hundred and sprayed a bunch, I never really, I haven't killed, honeybees haven't been my target in that regard. That's why I was a little surprised by this one that I stepped on, that it was a honeybee. Like, out of all the stinging insects around here, I'm surprised it was a honeybee. I'm surprised it wasn't a paper wasp or a hornet or a red wasp or something like that. But just so you know, I'm not out here killing honeybees. I'm just killing a bunch of wasps mostly. And for some reason, the honeybee felt like he had to get me. But anyway, so let's move on to that, and let's get into this Saints talk here. So anyways, can I get a menu? And first thing is, it just felt like deja vu from the Falcons game. It felt like deja vu from the first game last year when the Saints played the Falcons, and then in this game, if I remember correctly, in the first game of 2023, off the kickoff to Rashid Shaheed, it was a kickoff. It wasn't the punt, a punt return that he fumbled into the end zone. This was a kickoff that he tried to recover like on the sideline of the field, like towards the sideline. He was trying to recover this kickoff that they kicked, and he recovered it and then like fumbled it like right away. And he should, and just like the punt that we saw on Sunday, like he should have never even tried to return it. Should have never tried to field it, because if he wouldn't have fielded that one in 2023, that kickoff, it would have went out of bounds for a 40-yard penalty. So just like this, it would have been basically like kind of like a 20-yard penalty, because it would have been a touchback if it would have went into the end zone. And if not, it would have just, I guess it had just died inside the 5, which would be a lot better than just straight up giving gift wrapped in a touchdown for the Falcons. And then so we get that Rashid Shaheed has some weird fumbling and return muff problem when playing the Falcons in the first game of the year against them. But then Derek Carr threw a pick six in that game as well. He threw like almost, what was it? It was like a 95, 99 yard pick six. It was a red zone interception to Jesse Bates, number 3. When that interception happened on Sunday, Judon tipped it in there and it got returned. When I first seen the chaos of that play, I thought Jesse Bates had got him again. But no, it was some was he a defensive end or a outside linebacker or something that got it? And hell, freaking Chris Olave, who's, I guess he's dealing with a hamstring or something. Hell, he couldn't even catch him. Like, that dude must have ran track or something. So that's all the deja vu. I felt like I was in a time warp or something, seeing those exact same things happen to the Saints that happened in the first game against the Falcons last year. And they just basically gave it to them with those gift wrap touchdowns. You know, that game was probably a blowout without that. But yeah, I think last year's game against the Falcons, it just kind of turned into a blowout after that. The Saints, I gotta respect them a little bit and applaud them a little bit for trying to fight back. But in the end, it's just a ripping your guts out, and doesn't feel too good, especially with how the first 2 games of the season went. It's basically complete opposite how these last 2 games have gone. You know, you've just been able to kick back and relax and watch those first 2 games with no stress at all. And these last 2 have been nail biters that get your hopes up because the Saints have the lead late in the game, and then you just get your guts absolutely ripped out at the very end of the game. So yeah, not fun in that regard. But then you kind of look back on some history, Saints history, NFL history on this game, and hell, the Saints are the first team in like 40 years to score 24 points, not allow a defensive touchdown, like not give up a touchdown on defense, and still lose the game. Like, you got to go all the way back to like the 1980s to when the Saints were one of 3 other teams, or I guess they're just the one other team besides the Saints that have done it. So the Saints have done that twice, and they did it in the 80s, and then some other team has done it. So that's only happened 3 times in the NFL where a team has scored 24 points on offense, didn't allow a touchdown on defense, and still found a way to lose. on brand for Saints for sure. And then so that's a little bit of Saints history about that loss. We got a little bit of history about DA, and I don't really talk too much about DA. I'm not huge on being pessimistic and just downing people that are currently employed in the Saints, but this is one you got to highlight a little bit. So we're in the 3rd season of Dennis Allen, and he's had 4 games already where the Saints have had the lead with 2.5 minutes left in the games. They've had at least a 6-point or less lead, and he's lost 4 games. He lost the game last year to Green Bay like that. He lost the game in 2022 to the Cincinnati Bengals, and then he's lost 2 games in a row now. He lost that to the Philadelphia Eagles, and he lost that just to the Falcons. So there's a little bit of Saints history and even some Dennis Allen history that just makes you want to throw up, you know. So we're dealing with that. So that's some Saints history and just the deja vu of this game. So even more kind of deja vu of this game is just how players just started dropping like flies in this game due to injuries. Like the first one, we got Willie Gay in there starting for Demario Davis. He's real excited about getting his opportunity to start. And next thing you know, it must have been just the third or the fourth series. He's got a wrist or a hand injury, and he's out. So then you got DeMarco Jackson and Pete Warner as your linebackers in there then. And then we just we just been talking quite a bit about Tyrann Mathieu and how great he was. Like the last 4 games, he's had a turnover, created a turnover, had a takeaway, and then in this game, in the second half, he's not coming back out because he's not just standing on the sideline without his helmet because not because of his heel issue, because he's got a groin issue too. Hopefully, it's not something like Eric McCoy where he's going to be out for 6+ weeks due to it. And then it looked like the Saints were about on a roll, about to just roll the freaking Falcons over, and the legend, Hall of Fame or Saints killer, and Taysom Hill had already scored 2 touchdowns on them in the first quarter, and then he gets hurt again. I don't think it's the lung this time. I think it's something to do with the abdomen, but I just don't think that Taysom Hill can hold up. He's already, just throughout his whole NFL Saints career, even the last couple of years at BYU, he was known for being kind of injury prone. So he's got the injuries. That's part of his history. But the fact that he's 35 years old, and now they have him on having way more touches that he did previous years, and Sean Payton and just under Pete Carmichael. But that's not just that they're giving him more touches. He's in like almost every play, and if he's not getting an offensive touch, he's blocking. And I think that's how he got hurt on this play, was on a block. He kind of got pancaked into the block, and then the whole dog pile went on top of him, and he got hurt again. So I just don't think it's the smartest game plan to have Taysom Hill, an injury-prone old player, basically be the key that unlocks your offense. I think you're going to have to find a younger, healthier, more durable player. I know it's hard to find a player that fits the mold of Taysom Hill, who can run the ball, who can catch the ball, who can throw the ball, can play defense and special teams. That's just like, that's a very rare player. It's not you just don't pick one of those guys in the 5th or 6th round. Those guys are just few and far between. The only other one that's maybe kind of similar is maybe Deebo Samuels, who Clint Kubiak was, kind of coached for a little while. And the difference between the thing that Taysom Hill still has like over him is he's a decent quarterback, a decent passer. But so those are all the injuries. I felt a little bit more positive going into this game before I made my picks, because like right before the game, like game time, because we had game time decisions, and Alvin Kamara, who's apparently got broke ribs, and Chris Olave, who's just kind of I think he's kind of just known for having some tightness in his hamstring. But both of them ended up being game time decisions, and both ended up playing. So I felt a little more confident going into that game than I did when I made my picks. But man, that really came to a screeching halt once Taysom Hill, Willie Gay, Tyrann Mathieu, all those guys went out of the game. And it's like, oh well, no, we're back to being on uneven playing fields now. So, but that's enough of the injuries. Let's kind of get into some of these stats a little bit. Let's see here. So just the time of possession and things like that is what makes you sick about this game, because the Saints had 25 first downs. The Atlanta Falcons only had 14. Crazy, man. The Saints had 331 yards rushing with 3 touchdowns, and the Falcons only had 15 carries for 88 yards. Like, if you'd have just showed me those 2 stats right there before the game, or like even after the game, I would have thought that the Saints definitely blew the Falcons out. Like, that's just crazy. Like, these are the only kind of things that the bonehead stooge Saints make. Like, that's the only kind of stats and stuff that you see the type of Saints teams make. It's crazy. And then they're only sacked once for 4 yards and only got 1 sack for 11 yards. The passing yards are about the same, and then the total yards are pretty close. And then you had the both forced a fumble, but the Saints, I guess they didn't force a fumble. Rashid Shaheed basically gave it to him, but it was recovered. But the Saints had a forced fumble by Peyton Turner. But of course, for some reason, the Saints linemen just can't recover a fumble that's literally like right in front of them. Just fall on it and recover it. Don't try to be picking it up and going and score. Just fall on the damn thing and recover it. That would have been nice. That probably would have been a game changer right there. That would have, I think that might have kept 3 points off the board. They were able to have gotten that. And then the penalties were, it seemed in the first half, were kind of uneven. It seemed like the Falcons just continued to shoot themselves in the foot, and the Saints only, like, going into the second half, only had like 2 or 3 penalties. And then, of course, the Saints, towards the end of the game, the most crucial point of the game is when they start getting them called on them. It's crazy that they were even able to score at the end of the game, because they got backed up in like 1st and 20, 1st and 25, like multiple times, a couple times, and were able to get out of that horrible situation. And then the third down conversions, Saints were 7 for 13, that's great. That's great, being a little more than 50%. And then the Falcons were only 4 for 11, but that's really hard for me to believe. It seems like this Saints team is, the defense is like really bend but don't break, and they always allow like field goals and things like that. But in this game, and it seems like they never are able to stop teams like when they're kind of backed up in their own territory, and actually force teams to like punt it to them and maybe like be able to start with good position. So I'm a little surprised that they were only able to convert 4 downs, because they didn't have to punt that much in this game. Let's see here. Yeah, well, I guess Bradley Pinion did punt 3 times, but that still, it seems like they had them in more positions than that to do it, to get them, to force them to punt. But I guess most of those times when it came down to third down conversions and things like that, they were just ready to kick a punt. And then the Saints were 1 for 2 on 2-point conversions, and then the Falcons surprisingly were never had to be in that situation. And the Saints had 35 minutes and 42 seconds to just the Falcons 24 minutes and 18 seconds. That's just crazy, really, that the Saints just pretty much own this game. But it's the fact that they just gave away 2 touchdowns, just gift wrapped 14 points to the Falcons. And let's see, Derek Carr, he was 28 for 36 for 239 yards. Interception, which we know went for a touchdown. Judon, I don't know. A lot of people saying he should have probably just grounded that one there, but we've seen how some of these screens have worked out, where the Saints get it to Rashid Shaheed or get it to Alvin Kamara at the last second, kind of like that play, and how they go for touchdowns. So, you could go either way with that. If you knew it was going to be a pick six, of course you'd known to throw it in the dirt. And then we had Alvin Kamara rushed 19 times for 77 yards and 1 touchdown. And then Taysom Hill was 6 for 24 with 2 touchdowns. Like the legend killer, Taysom Hill, like he was on the fast track of ruining the Falcons' day again, but of course wasn't able to get that. And I was a little surprised that Rashid Shaheed had his best day receiving, definitely not his best day as a special teams player or a return man, but I was surprised he had 11 targets with 8 catches for 83 yards. And then Chris Olave had 10 targets for 8 catches for 87 yards. So they had pretty similar days, besides the fact that Chris Olave didn't make a boneheaded play like Rashid Shaheed has done. Let's see. And so on the defense, there weren't really a lot of too many plays on defense, like big plays where they made any big stops or got any sacks or interceptions. There was an early interception in the game by Paulson Adebo. He had an interception and was only able to return it for like 1 yard. Wasn't even really able to get up, but had 3 pass deflections. But the fact that he had 12 tackles, combined tackles, 10 assists, 10 solo, 2 assists, tells you that the Falcons were getting past like the first and second wave of the Saints defense if your corner is your leading tackler. And it probably means that they're picking on him a little bit as well. So Paulson Adebo has been kind of getting picked on the last 2 weeks. He had 10 tackles in the game against the Philadelphia Eagles last week as well. Getting picked on, but makes a play every now and again, getting that interception. But man, it's hard to believe they lost this game because this was very similar to the 3rd and 16 in Philadelphia. They have a 2nd and 10, or it was either 2nd and 10 or 1st and 10 from the Falcons' own 30-yard line. 31 seconds on a running clock because they had just got a false start on a running clock, and so they had to have a 10-second runoff, and then the clock is still running, no timeouts, but the Falcons and Kirk Cousins find a way to get a 40-yard pass interference call on Paulson Adebo, just giving him the 40 yards, and then hell, after that, it shows you that the Saints can play defense, should have been able to get this stop, because then they don't even allow the Falcons to get any more yards, and it basically forces them to kick the freaking field goal from where the penalty was called and applied at. And then of course, we got Saints killer. We played 2 Saints killers just last week in Philadelphia with Shaquan Barkley and Jalen Hurts, but we got Saints killer Koo. Koo. Yang Ho Koo or whatever. Young Ho Koo, a Saints killer. Like the Saints have never gotten one over on him. The only time they've ever gotten one over on him was the 2022 opening game of the season, where the Saints came back from 17, 20-point deficit, and then Falcons at the very end of the game got the opportunity to try like a 60-yard field goal, and Peyton Turner was able to block that one. But besides that, I don't ever recall Young Ho Koo ever missing a kick against the Saints. So this definitely Saints killer in that regard. Let's see, I think that's about that. Let's go over some MVPs here. So offensive MVP, I think that's pretty easy. It's obvious, it's clear and obvious that Taysom Hill was on a fast track to easily be the MVP of this game, and he shows that he is the MVP of this game, because the freaking game kind of went off the rails once he had to come out of it due to his abdomen injury. But I mean, he had 6 carries, 2 of them being goal line carries where he scored touchdowns and 24 yards and just a long of 7. One of those longs, I think that long of 7 was the one where it was like 3rd and 1, or 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and it looked like he got stopped in the backfield and was able to bounce it outside and pick up 7 yards when it just looked like there's nothing there. Like Taysom Hill, he's an amazing player, but he's one of those older players now that just is made of glass, and he always kind of has been made of glass. You just never expected now that at 34, 35 years old that he's basically almost going to be in on every play, whether it's offensive or he's just blocking, and he's just not durable enough for that anymore. So Taysom Hill would still have been it. And then defense, give it to Peyton Turner, honestly. A lot of people were wanting Peyton Turner cut in the offseason, but I mean, he's really besides Paulson Adebo making the interception, which they did capitalize and get a touchdown off of that, but he made there's 3 really boneheaded plays in this game that cost the Saints the game. Obviously, Rashid Shaheed's muff punt, Derek Carr's interception, and then the 40-yard pass interference call on Paulson Adebo. But I just for that, I can't give it to him. But yeah, Peyton Turner, he had a strip sack. He had a strip sack on Kirk Cousins at midfield, but no one could seem to fall on it and get it. But then he had 3 combined tackles, 2 solo, 1 assist, a tackle for loss, and a quarterback hit. So I'm giving the MVP to Peyton Turner. And I'm telling you, the next podcast, which is be going over the Jets and stuff. I think I just need to pick a bottom of the barrel player to be the MVP, because now it seems like I've cursed Rashid Shaheed, who was just on fire the first 2 weeks of the year. But now I feel I've cursed Tyrann Mathieu as well, because there was a play on like 3rd and long where he gave up a big first down in that game. But that's not really what I'm talking about. It's now that he's injured. I think having Tyrann Mathieu at the end of the game, kind of like would have been having Demario Davis at the end of the game against Philadelphia, but having Tyrann Mathieu at the end of this game, maybe assisting Paulson Adebo a little bit in too high safety type of coverage situation, probably would have helped a lot. But no, I picked Tyrann Mathieu to be my MVP for this game and to have like his 5th turnover in a row in this game. And then of course he gets hurt in the first half, and then you don't have him in probably some of the most crucial moments of the game. I swear I need to stop picking any Saints starters to be MVPs, because I swear I'm just jinxing them. And then Matthew Hayball, easy. I think a pretty easy pick for the special teams MVP, because he had 3 punts for 120 yards with a 40-yard, I guess that's per punt, and a long of 48, but like all of them were like inside the 20. So he did a good job of placing the ball and having the Falcons have to be backed up to start their drives. So Hayball and Peyton Turner, who would have guessed that, and then Taysom Hill, which I think if I didn't go offense for the first time on my MVP picks, that's probably who I would have picked, was been Taysom Hill, the Falcons killer. So those are MVPs, and then on to hot takes. This game kind of played out like I expected. I predicted that the Saints offensive line wasn't going to give up a sack in this game, and they didn't. They did. They gave up 1 sack, but just for like a 4-yard loss. But the offensive line played a lot better than I expected them to. Like, they played well enough for the Saints to win, especially in the running game. The fact that behind a makeshift offensive line that they were able to rush for 131 yards off of 33 carries and 2 touchdowns, like that's pretty impressive. And then only allow Derek Carr to get sacked once. And a lot of those sacks where Derek Carr gets sacked, but it seems like he's just kind of looking to step up in the pocket, and then he just kind of cradles up and like falls down and just gives them the sack sometimes. But hey, I guess I'd rather him do that than attempt to fight it off and try to avoid going down and getting hurt, I guess. But yeah, I would say my pick came pretty close to hitting. So I think I'm maybe like in the opposite of who I'm picking for MVPs. I think I maybe need to continue to have my hot takes kind of offensive line based, because they've been hitting for some reason. I don't know why. And then my pick and score, it was very, very close as well. So this game ended up being 26-24 Atlanta Falcons. I predicted it to be 2019 Atlanta Falcons. So just within a couple points, 1 point, their game was and 2. And I predicted, I thought it was going to be a close game. And then one of the coaches was going to make kind of like a boneheaded decision at the end of the game, like Dennis Allen had an opportunity to kick an extra point to tie it up 2020, but instead goes for 2. That's not exactly what happened in this game. There's a lot of people that are talking about the Saints, 3rd to last possession when they got down inside inside the 5-yard line or inside the 10-yard line. It's like 1st and goal the first time, and then the Falcons got the goal line stand, and there's a lot of people saying that the Dennis Allen should have kicked the field goal there. Like, that would have helped the Saints win necessarily. Like, that would have changed how the game played out. Like, I mean, it probably would, but the difference between getting the turning over on downs there and kicking a field goal and then having to get a 3 and out and getting it again, like they wouldn't have started the drive, their last touchdown drive. They wouldn't have started it at the Falcons 45-yard line, as if they would have kicked it and had it, it would have been, yeah, it'd have been what, 17-24 or no? I'm trying to think. Yeah, it would have, yeah, it'd been 20-23, making it a 3-point game. Uh, and so, but yeah, if they would have had to they'd have had to get another three and out after kicking the field goal, and then if it got punted to them on that drive, they'd probably haven't been having to start the drive from like the 30. There's a big difference between having to go 70 yards and having to go 45 yards. And on that drive, how they got backed up in 1st and 20 a couple times, that would have happened for sure. Having to go 70 yards, they'd have got penalties, and who knows if they'd actually gotten field goal range to tie it up or scored another touchdown to win the game. You can't really predict that, but I see that quite a lot from Hudat saying, "Oh, again, Dennis Allen should have took the field goal." Well, you probably wouldn't have been starting your final touchdown, the lead taking score. You probably wouldn't have been starting your drive at the 45-yard line, because they were kicking like what, inside the 10-yard line or something, inside their 15, and it was a bad punt that was fielded by Rashid Shaheed at the 50-yard line, and he returned it for like 5 yards. So that's some of the scores and takes. But yeah, I feel that pick and that score are pretty close. So I pretty good on the hot takes and pretty good on the picks and score, which I would prefer probably not to be. I'd love to be completely wrong on my pick and score, but hey, I would say that's the closest I've been all year to getting that right. But anyways, this game is painful. It's a more heartache that to have like a complete opposite 2 games after having the first 2 games being so amazing, and then just having, as a fan, having 2 games in a row that you lose in like the worst fashion possible, losing in the final, the ending, the last minutes of the game it's just disheartening. It's just a heartbreaker, and just it's hard to get over. But I guess the next Saints game will be against the I guess in Arrowhead against the Kansas City Chiefs, who, you want to use the injuries as an excuse for the Saints, but hell, the the Kansas City Chiefs are dealing with a lot of injuries, especially on offense. Starting running backs, both starting wide receivers, Isaiah Pacheco, the running back, Hollywood Brown, Rasheen Rice. Like the Saints defense needs to take advantage of that. I don't know how they'll perform with all the injuries that they may be coming up with. I think the first practice is on Thursday, but it would be nice. I think the hype train would be restarted if the Saints can find a way to get a win in Arrowhead. But anyways, I think that's about. We'll talk more about that. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you. So who dat? And can I get a check, please?